Welcome in. It is the live edition Instant Reaction Northside Baseball Podcast. He is Jason Ross. I am Mitch Widmeyer. The last two versions of this have been pretty fun. Yep. This one, not so much. Cubs lose to the Brewers.
Fun.
Cubs lose to the Brewers 3-1. Season comes to an end in Milwaukee. We'll dive into everything. Drop a comment if you want. We'll get it on. If you're new to our YouTube channel or just coming across it, please click the subscribe button as we try to build this up. It costs you absolutely nothing, helps us immensely. Always appreciative of all the support. Would like it, obviously, to pop up in as many algorithms as possible. Brewer fans will probably like watching this one, to be honest with you, right? They probably didn't watch the last couple, but would want to tune in for this one. So the Cubs fall 3-1. Season comes to an end in 5 games. I'll start with this too, Jason. Whether it's my favorite NFL team, NBA, MLB, very, very rare are the occurrences when their season comes to an end. Am I talking about like positives as far as like, oh man, like I'm not going to look at this series and be like, hey, at least the Cubs made it to a 5th game. Like, no, the sting of losing this one, it stings too much.
Sucks.
I can't live in that world. I have seen some people do that already, like, hey, hell of a season, you know, if Cade Horton would have been around, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, maybe, but I can't do that. And maybe
I can't do that right now. I can do that maybe like talk to me in weeks. 3 days. Talk to me in a couple days and maybe I'm cool, but right now, no, man, I can't do that right now. This sucks.
100% agree with you. So I just wanted to get out in front of that, because if you did want to live in that land, I'm completely fine if someone else does it. I can't do it.
It's not me.
I can't sit here and be like, man, those game 3 and game 4 were so electric. At least they got it. I can't do it.
No, so those games were fun, but it doesn't matter if they lose game 5.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we'll bop around like we always do. These are instant reaction, live reaction, and we kind of go all over the map. I'll start with this. Very interested to get your thoughts. Going Pomerantz to Colin Ray, I had 0 issue with it. I had 0 issue laying it out, that structure.
I did.
Okay. I didn't have a problem with it from the perspective of, you know, we saw Shota warming up once. I love Shota Imanaga, but I also thought if he pitched at any point in time in this game, even if it was just for 3 outs, I'd constantly be thinking he's going to give up a home run at some point. Just kind of how it was with him. Pomerantz gave up the solo shot. Colin Ray gave up a solo shot. I thought if you wanted to nitpick a little bit, certainly could have maybe zoned in on how long Colin Ray was kept in for, and Palencia had to get out of a bases loaded 2-out jam after Colin Ray walked. I think it was Blake Perkins in the 8-hole. But the Cubs got out of that. That's kind of where I wanted to start, and I know we always hop around all over the place, but
my issue is straight up starting Pomerantz. That was a bad decision. Unforced error. You cannot let Pomerantz, a left-handed pitcher, face Jackson Chourio, who's the 5th best player in all of baseball against left-handed pitching. And Drew Pomerantz has splits against against right-handed hitters. And then on top of that, I know Contreras hasn't hit lefties this year. Contreras normally hits lefties just fine. And on a 3-2 count, I said it on North Side. I said it in my friend's Discord chat. I said, you can't throw him a strike. You have Yelich on the bench. You have Yelich coming up next. He's left-handed, and he threw him a strike 3-2. It was an unforced error. The Cubs started off with a bad decision. And I get it. Like if Pomerantz blanks him in the first and McGill blanks the Cubs in the first, you say advantage Cubs, right? Cubs burned McGill, who's one of their 2 best relievers. Brewers burn Pomerantz, who's maybe 4th or 5th best reliever for the Cubs. But the bad thing that happened was an unforced error. And you know that the Brewers, the second that you announce Pomerantz, you're going to see Chourio, you're going to see Contreras in the first inning. And I thought that was an unforced error. That is not something that needed to happen. You didn't need to face Contreras and Chourio right off the bat, lefty righty. You didn't. You could have saved Pomerantz for a more strategic situation later in the game. I hated that decision. I know that there was some data that suggests that like Chourio didn't do well against the pitch mix against Pomerantz. Shout out to Brendan Miller, who I've known from my Pro Sports Daily time from forever ago. He pointed that out, but I wouldn't have gone with Pomeranz. I think that was a bad. That felt like a bad choice. If you were going to go opener, I would have gone with Kittredge. I could have gone with like Michael Soroka if you wanted to go like righty that way. I did not like the Pomeranz start.
Would you have gone with Colin Ray out of the rip?
I could have gone with Colin Ray out of the rip. I would have gone with a right-handed pitcher. I wouldn't have gone with a lefty right off the bat. That's a guaranteed Chourio Contreras against a lefty. And that's not the way that I would have gone with it. Again, I know Contreras, his numbers this year don't look great against lefties. He's still William Contreras, and I'm a little bit less interested in yearly data when like we have multiple seasons data. I don't think he forgot how to hit left-handed pitching. I also know that Drew Pomeranz has splits against righties, so I wouldn't let Drew Pomeranz face two righties off the rip. I didn't like that. I didn't like that decision. I know that Craig Counsell was kind of in a bad situation of bad situations. And we talked about bad situations and bad situations. Game one, he either had to go with Boyd on short rest or go with like Javier Assad, who's I don't think the Cubs don't think he's very good. They left him off the playoff roster. They could have gone with Colin Ray, who I know hadn't given up a home run since given up one home run since July 29th, gave up a home run tonight. So like there were a lot of bad options game one. I think there were a lot of bad options game five. I think in terms of bad options, I wouldn't have started a lefty if I didn't have to, especially if I wasn't going to use Shota. If like the goal was don't leave Shota in there, don't let him give up a home run, I'm going right-handed pitching right off the bat, and I don't understand why they went with Pomeranz.
It's fair. As we mentioned, Pomeranz gave up the Brewers had 3 solo homers. They all came with 2 outs, which just like if you want to talk about slashing.
I don't think they had a single hit with less than 2 hits. 2 outs.
With less than 2 outs, yeah. I mean, that'll pour salt into a wound. You allow 3 solo shots and all with 2 outs. That just sucks.
Oh, it's brutal.
Would it? So Pomeranz gives up the homer. I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this, Jason. Pomeranz gives up the homer. Colin Ray gives up the homer, but Colin Ray 2 2/3 gives up 1 run. Like I thought Colin Ray was fine. I thought I'm
not mad at Ray.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to figure out how to word this, but you go into an elimination game, and your first 2 pitchers are. And Drew Pomeranz had a great year, right? He had a great year, awesome year. But you go into an elimination game, and your first 2 pitchers are a 36-year-old who hadn't pitched in the majors since 2021 before coming to your team this year, and then Colin Ray, who's like a career journeyman, a 5th starter in a rotation. And the Brewers get to start the game with an all-star closer and a rookie phenom who throws 100 miles per hour that gave them 4 innings and really allowed 1 oopsie, which was a solo shot to Seiya Suzuki. So I guess I'm trying to say, like, it's tough. I know both teams ended up going with a bullpen game, but if you're in an elimination game and your 2 first options are Pomeranz and Ray, as good as they both were this year, it tells me, like, man, maybe you could have added a little more. You get what I'm saying? And like, no, we can't predict the Cade Horton injury. I know that Justin Steele's been out since April. I get all that, but I had a tough time swallowing the pill of you had to start Pomeranz. You didn't have to, but you started Pomeranz in an elimination game for an inning and then went to a career journeyman in Colin Ray, while on the very opposite side, a team in the similar boat, they're also in a game 5. They're scattering. They just threw their big jab or their haymaker, tried to, with Freddie Peralta in game 4. And their first 2 options are McGill, who's an all-star, and he's awesome, and Mizorowski, rookie phenom. I don't know. I hindsight, definitely 2020 on that one, because I wasn't overjoyed they went with Pomeranz and then Ray, but I was okay with it. But you look back at it, it's like, man, can you maybe add some more depth for next year in that department, so you're not in this spot, so you're not in a Pomeranz Ray game 5 elimination against your division rival. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? I'm crediting the season they both had, because they were both great, and Pomeranz was unexpectedly good this year. But to know in an elimination game against your division rival, those are your first 2 options. It's like, man, that like do better with roster building in the off season and then at the trade deadline. That's kind of where I'm at.
I've been pretty clear about it on Northside for a while, and I wrote an article about it at the deadline. Actually, I really like Jed Hoyer, so I want to preface all of this by saying that if you're mad about Jed Hoyer, there's a way to be mad about Jed Hoyer. If you're upset at Jed Hoyer because he makes bad contracts or bad trades, he doesn't. Like, you think in your head right now, what's the worst contract that he's given out? What's the worst trade he's made? And it's like Trey Mancini. If that's his worst contract he gave out, that's nothing. He does not give out bad contracts. He does not make bad trades. The biggest chips he's given up have been Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris, and he gave up from Michael Bush, who was the 5th best hitter against right-handed pitching in baseball this year. It's very hard to find bad value when Jed Hoyer does something. My fault with Jed Hoyer is that he always leaves the Cubs one player short. It's consistent. The Cubs are one player short. The Cubs, if they had one more reliever last year, they probably make the playoffs. If they would have had one more pitcher this year, whether it was a starter or a reliever, if you want to play the game that the Cubs couldn't have gotten a starter at the deadline, I'm not of that category. I believe that Edward Cabrera or Sandy Alcantara were very attainable. Greg Zumach has mentioned it himself that he thought it was obtainable. At least, well, he didn't necessarily say it was obtainable, but he talked about some of the prices, and they were like Owen Casey plus. And if Owen Casey's the worst thing that you have to give up, I'm giving it up for Edward Cabrera. I'm giving it up for Sandy Alcantara. But let's say we're living in a world starting pitcher wasn't available. All right. So then go get David Bednar, because today's game starts with David Bednar instead of Drew Pomeranz, right? That's how you do it. You build a bullpen of doom if you're not going to get a starting pitcher. And the Cubs got Michael Soroka and they got Andrew Kittredge, and Andrew Kittredge was phenomenal. I know tonight he gave up a home run. I'm not going to fault him for the trade on that one. He was the second best reliever in terms of xFIP since the deadline, and the only reliever that beat him was Mason Miller. That's not of traded relievers. That's of all relievers in Major League Baseball. Andrew Kittredge was the second best. So I'm not going to blame him for that. But instead of Taylor Rogers, who you didn't even put on your NLDS roster, he wasn't even on the roster. If
Ben Brown got it over him.
Yep. Yeah. You go out and you spend a little bit more on David Bednar. You go out and you spend a little bit more on another reliever that you build an actual bullpen of doom, and you're not starting Drew Pomeranz tonight. My biggest issue with Pomeranz starting tonight is that it was lefty against Chourio and Contreras. So if you don't go that route and you have David Bednar instead, or you have another right-handed reliever that you really trust, it's not that situation. And that's my biggest issue with Jed Hoyer. Jed makes great acquisitions. I think he understands value probably better than you and I really do. Jed Hoyer is so good with value, like his understanding of what a player is really worth. It is why Trey Mancini and Tucker Barnhart and Drew Smyly are our bad deals. But it also, he seems to have an inability to get irrational on a move in which he needs to get a little irrational on. It's why I think Kyle Tucker will probably walk at this point, not because Jesse Rogers says that the Cubs are never going to be interested in signing Kyle Tucker. I don't believe that one bit. I do believe that the Cubs want to sign Kyle Tucker, but one team is going to get slightly irrational about it, and the Cubs won't. Dodgers. It's why the Dodgers, the Red Sox, somebody's going to get slightly irrational about it, and the Cubs aren't. And we see this. We see this time and time again. The Red Sox were willing to get slightly irrational with Alex Bregman. Who gets Alex Bregman? The Red Sox. The Dodgers were willing to get a little irrational about Tanner Scott. Who got Tanner Scott? The Dodgers. And I know Tanner Scott didn't have a great year. I'm not even arguing about that point. But it's that when the Cubs really want a player, they don't get a little irrational about him. It's why they end up with Dansby Swanson. And this is no shade to Dansby Swanson. He's been better than I expected. I did not think Dansby Swanson was going to be anywhere this good. He's been a lovely contract. Every penny has been worthwhile so far. He's really been great. But there's just a refusal to get slightly irrational about a player that you really want. And Jed Hoyer doesn't do it. And we're going to go into the offseason this year. And we can talk about next year either tonight or later. I mean, we got podcasts to come in the winter. We're going to talk about lots of things. I actually think the Cubs are going to be fine next year. I think they're probably going to be another 90-win team. They're going to be just fine. But one of the issues that will always persist with Jed Hoyer, it seems, is that the Cubs are always going to be one player short because he just doesn't have that ability to get irrational. And I think that's what cost him tonight. I really do. I think the reason that the Cubs are not going to lose to the Dodgers in the NLCS, because I think either team would have lost the Dodgers in the NLCS at this point, is because they were one player short.
Yeah, Jed draws his line in the sand and doesn't ever go across it. That's a simplistic way of kind of putting it. And I think there are times where when you're in his role, president of baseball ops, if you're a general manager, whatever it may be, and I don't care if it's MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, if you feel like you're close, once in a while you have to say, you know what? We might be giving up a lot here for player A or B, whether it's financially or in a trade package, but we believe this move could put us over the top. And I'm with you that I'll even throw another name in there because you said Cabrera and Alcantara. Like, I don't know how available this guy was, but his name certainly was brought up, and this team certainly traded away a bunch of players at the deadline, including one to the Cubs and Willie Castro, a name like Joe Ryan. Like, there were pitchers available that you felt like, man, if you go get one of these guys at the deadline, it can put you over the top in a series like this. And again, we couldn't predict the Cade Horton injury, but if you had one of those guys and a Cade Horton, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like you're lined up really good. Instead, you're scattering from the start of this series. You're starting Matthew Boyd on short rest, which, I mean, we talked about his numbers throughout his career on short rest. Not good. But you thought, hey, maybe this can be the one good spot where he's on short rest, and it wasn't. But you start the series having to go Matthew Boyd on short rest, you're behind the 8 ball. You just are, flat out. And that's the advantage the Brewers had with getting the bye because they won the division, got the top seed. But you look at some of these other teams that were in wild card series that advanced, they weren't in a spot where it was similar to the Cubs starting Matthew Boyd on short rest. So I'm with you that I like so many of the buttons that Jed Hoyer pushes, but there's a part of me that wishes at some point in time he'd be a little more aggressive, right? And do that move that, like, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Once in a while, it's not bad.
Every
because
once in a while.
Going into this year after the Kyle Tucker trade, what did we all say? We're like, if this team doesn't make the postseason, it will be a wild disappointment. So going into the season, your frame of mind for the Cubs, the fans, the front office, everything, Jason, was, okay, they should at least be a playoff team. And they did that. But there wasn't that move where it's like, oh, they could win the pennant with this move. And there wasn't a move like that, which I get wanting to hang on to your prospects, but sometimes you can hug them a little too tight. And
I mean, what's the path to Jonathan Long at this point with the Cubs? Like, what's his path? Is he a first baseman? Well, the Cubs have Michael Busch, who had the 5th best WRC plus against right-handed pitching in baseball, and clearly has learned something against left-handed pitching. I'm not exactly certain to say that he's not going to be like somewhat platooned next year, but he got a hit against Ashby tonight. He had a 143 WRC plus his last 50 at bats against left-handed pitching. Like, there's progress there. So what's Jonathan Long? He can't hit lefties all that well. He didn't hit lefties all that well in Iowa. He can't play third base. He can't play left field. Why is he still here? Like, and I'm not arguing that Jonathan Long's a bad prospect. He's a fantastic prospect. But what's the path? If he's a DH next year, okay, then where's Owen Casey and Moises Ballesteros? Where do they play? You can't have 3 DH. You can't have 4 first basemen. You can't have 3 catchers. At some point, like, you have to pick a lane. And if you want to say that the deadline deals weren't there, I'm not going to fully agree with you. But okay, fine. Let's take all the starting pitching off. But again, there's still relievers, and the Cubs went with Andrew Kittredge, Michael Soroka, and Taylor Rogers, one of which they didn't throw in the put him on the roster, and the other one pitched 2 at bats against the Padres and in a losing effort, and then came in and got his ass kicked in game 1 here. Like, that was it. Those are your innings. The only deadline deal that you had that pitched significant at bats in the postseason was Andrew Kittredge, which is great. He was awesome. But what else are you doing? Where's a little bit of aggressiveness? And it wasn't there. And it really wasn't there. And that's my biggest issue with Hoyer. That's my biggest issue with the season. I don't think that the Cubs ever are truly serious about like pushing their chips in enough to like say like, hey, let's go get it. And I'm not asking the Cubs to trade like Cade Horton and Jackson Wiggins for a rental. That's not what I'm asking. Edward Cabrera would have been controlled for 2.5 years. Sandy Alcantara would have been controlled for 1.5 years. Both of them were excellent in the second half. Mackenzie Gore wasn't great in the second half. So maybe like, all right, fine. Like I would have advocated for trading for him as well, but maybe not. But Bednar, that would have been a guy. That there are other relievers that they could have gotten. And they left themselves one player short. Last year it cost them the playoffs, I believe. When they were playing like Jose Cuas in the last couple of months, instead of a reliever that they picked up at the deadline who you could really trust. And this year into the postseason, whether it was a starter or a reliever, the Cubs are going with Matthew Boyd on 3 games rest in game 1. They're going with Drew Pomeranz and what I don't think was a great situation in game 5. Either one of those could have been started by a different opener, somebody who would have been more rested, somebody that you actually wanted on your playoff roster as opposed to Taylor Rogers. There were just opportunities, and I feel as though the Cubs just kind of missed them. They just didn't take them.
Michael says, hello, as a Cubs fan since 2004. I'm not mad at them. I can't describe game 5. Yeah, 3 solo shots, all with 2 outs. Definitely more of a dagger from Milwaukee. I do want to dive it back into the game real quick, Jason.
Let's dive into the game.
I think this part's pretty obvious. 2-1 top 6, first 2 guys reach base, and you have Tucker, Suzuki, Hap up. That's your chance. That is your chance.
That's a chance.
Now, there were a couple other smaller chances later, but 2-1, you're down, top 6.
Yeah, that's the spot.
First, second, nobody out with the meat and potatoes of the order up, and Tucker strikes out. Say a Suzuki hits your solo home run, and that out he had in the 6th inning, he hit that right on the buttons. I don't know what the exit velo was, but it
102 miles an hour.
Right at Jackson Churio.
Smoked the hell out of the ball.
Churio had to make a little pathway towards it. It wasn't right at him, but that's an at-bat where I was like, competitive at-bat. I think Seiya right before that had swung at a fastball up at his chin. So I was like, oh, no, where's this going? But then he hits it right on the buttons to left, and I'm like, all right, Seiya just gave you a hell of an at-bat. It just went to the out, went to Churio, and then Ian Happ strikes out looking at Payne on the outside corner. But undoubtedly, the 2 things I will look back, this offseason, if I even dare look back at this specific game from this series, like 2-3 years down the road, I will always remember that Pomeranz was used as an opener, followed up by Colin Ray in an elimination game. And that's 6th inning. Those are the 2 things I'll circle back to, because my buddies and I were texting that are Cubs fan, and everyone said, Kyle Tucker, this is the moment. This is the spot. 1st and 2nd, nobody out, down 2-1, elimination game. And he struck out, and I'm not putting it all on Kyle Tucker, but that was the spot with 3, 4, 5 up in the order after Michael Busch and Nico Horner set the table.
I mean, I think you said it really well there with Drew Pomeranz and Colin Ray in an elimination game. If I told you before the season started that the Chicago Cubs were going to be an elimination playoff game, and Drew Pomeranz, who hadn't pitched an inning since 2022, was going to start.
2021, wasn't it? Wasn't it
2021? Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, 2021.
And Colin Ray were going to pitch your first 5 innings. I think you would have probably correctly diagnosed how bad of a situation that is. And that's no skin against either of those.
100%. Yes.
Colin Ray had given up 1 home run since July 29th. He'd been fantastic. And Drew Pomeranz has been awesome all season. And I'm not trying to take away either of those, but I think if at any point next year we talk about that kind of a situation again, going into an elimination game where like you have somebody who hasn't pitched in a major league inning in 3 years and the backup is like a career swingman, that's a bad situation. And I'm not going to completely like blame the Cubs. Justin Steele got hurt. Cade Horton got hurt. Those are things that happen, but like that's how you lose a 3-1 baseball game. That's how you lose a 3-1 baseball game. Part of the reason you lose a 3-1 baseball game is because Seiya Suzuki hits it on the screws right to Jackson Churio. Nico Horner had a 670 XBA on the ball he hit to third base in the 8th inning to get them going with the runner on first base. Like that's bad luck, but at some point, like you can't fix bad luck in a baseball game, but you can fix bad luck throughout the season. And the Drew Pomeranz, Colin Ray thing felt like a little unforced. So like, we like the sixth inning sucked, right? The sixth inning sucked. Kyle Tucker didn't work out in that moment. He missed a fastball down the middle. He should have gotten. And I'm going to talk a little bit, Jacob Mizorowski right now. The Cubs missed opportunities early against him. I wrote an article on Northside. His issue is that he hangs the hell out of the slider. And the Cubs let him settle in, and he got his slider and he started burying it. Thing about Mizorowski is he's got an expert velocity, right? Elite velocity. It's 2 miles an hour harder on average on his slider than the second best. The second best slider velocity is like 92 miles an hour. He's 94.1 if I have my decimals correct. Off the top of my head, I don't have it pulled up exactly, but I believe that's what it was. It's 94.1. So he's got over 2 miles an hour harder velocity than the second hardest slider in the league. He's got a 121 stuff plus. So it's elite shape, elite velocity, but he hangs the hell out of the pitch. So you got to hit it. When he throws it in the middle, especially early, first couple of innings, he was hanging the hell out of it. Cubs hitters missed it again. They had a chance to hit it, and the last time they saw him, and they didn't. They had 6 swings on it. They missed it 4 times. It was all in the zone. They didn't swing at a single chase pitch on it. Tonight, they missed pitches early, and then he settled in and he started burying it down and low. And if he's going to bury that pitch down and low with the velocity that he has and the shape that he has, you're not going to hit it. If he leaves it in the middle of the plate, you'll crush it. And the Cubs missed their opportunities. They missed their opportunities in the 6th. They missed their opportunities in the 5th. They missed their opportunities in the 4th. They missed their opportunities in the 3rd. He was hanging pitches, and the Cubs missed those opportunities. They missed them with base runners on. They couldn't take advantage of their spots tonight, and that sucks. And that's why we're talking about what we are right now. So it's not even just the pitching. I mean, I think if you had gone into this game, you say Drew Pomeranz starts, go back to kind of the original point. Drew Pomeranz starts, Colin Ray comes into the bulk, and they only give up 3 runs on the game. You say, I feel pretty good about the Cubs, right? And they couldn't take their opportunities. And I know some of it's bad luck. Some of it is like bad luck happens, but in many ways you create your own variance as you play. And the Cubs didn't create variance. They gave away variance, and now we're having a depressing episode of Northside Baseball Podcast.
Yeah, it is the Northside Baseball Podcast.
Yeah.
Mr. Meyer, Jason Ross. Cubs lose 3-1. Season comes to an end in Milwaukee. Milwaukee advances to face the Dodgers. We'll briefly peek at that at the end, probably just for a quick minute or so. That 6th inning, though, obviously was the golden opportunity, the golden ticket, based off how it started and what part of the lineup you had up. The only other opportunity after that really came in the 8th. Michael Busch, 1-out walk, and then you just brought up luck, and I am on 100% agreement with you. Like, yeah, you can have bad luck, but you can also create some of your luck at times. And Nico Hoerner, just some bad luck. He had a phenomenal postseason. I freaking love Nico Hoerner. And he just scorched a missile just right to Durbin at third base in the 8th inning with 1 out. And so then it was Busch at first with 2 outs, and Kyle Tucker just rolled over a weak grounder to second, 10 the inning. That was their only other chance because it was 3-1 at that point, but you had the tying run at the plate in the form of Hoerner, who, again, hit a missile. I was going to say something else, but I don't know if we could say it on YouTube, but he hit a missile, a dart, right to Durbin. And then, Tucker rolled over on a grounder to second because outside of that, it was 1-2-3, 1-2-3. And, man, the Brewers got some fun arms to go to in Mizorowski and Abner Uribe. Uribe's got a live electric arm, too. He can get a little chaotic with his control at times, but he actually did when he walked Busch in the 8th inning, but he was able to hone in after a mound visit from Contreras. So you tip your cap to the Brewers. Cubs didn't do enough. Like, you score 1 run in an elimination game, you're probably not winning that game. I mean, you're not
going to win the game. You can't win the game with 1 run.
This isn't, Tarek Skubal against Kirby, what we saw on Friday night, which one run wasn't enough to win it anyway.
No, both teams scored 2. They scored 2. The Cubs, you can't score 1.
Yeah, if you have Skubal and Kirby, you think, well, maybe 1 would win it, but you start Pomeranz as an opener, go to Colin Ray, 1 run's not going to win it. I was saying to you right before we jumped on, I did feel like tonight there were more, and maybe it's because they just scored 6 runs and they only scored 1 in this one, Jason. It just looked like there were more on competitive at bats, and there's a couple guys you could point at, and I'm not splitting up the pie blame. I don't want to do that, but it just felt, and maybe I should just credit Milwaukee pitching. Maybe I should just tip my cap and be like, you know what? They were dialed in for the most part. Like Patrick came in and I thought that'd be an opportunity to pounce, and he was pretty brilliant. He got like 3 swings that were like at the chin or above on 3 different hitters, which I thought was
the Cubs chased a bunch of things. And I mean, if you look at
started pressing.
The crazy thing is that if you look at like swings and misses, I mean, the Cubs didn't have a lot of swings and misses today. I know they struck out a bunch. They struck out, I think, 8 times on the game. But they didn't swing and miss a ton. Mizorowski pulled 9 swings and misses, but outside of that, Chad Patrick was your second one. He got 5 in his short outing. Pete Crow Armstrong, I thought, had a good swing against
Patrick
him.
Had 5 swing and misses?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was second most in the game.
Wow.
Drew Pomeranz was third. So like it was a weird game where the Cubs struck out a bunch, but it wasn't like necessarily because of swings and misses. It was really just a weird baseball game in general. The Cubs had some hard hits. The Brewers did have the 4 hardest hits of the game. Which is, not surprising that they ended up winning the game. But Nico Horner hit the ball 105 miles an hour for an out.
I just said that, in the 8th inning.
Yeah. Seiya Suzuki hit at 105 and he hit a home run, but then you've got like Carson Kelly ground out 102. Seiya Suzuki line out 102. Pete Crow Armstrong fly out 100. Ian Happ line out 100. They hit some balls hard. It kind of went to guys. Pete Crow Armstrong's fly out had an XBA of 450. Nico Horner's had an XBA of 670. Ian Happ line out XBA of 380. None of those balls landed, and we can talk about like, none of those were like over. Like Nico Hornets was over 500, but that's still a little bit better than a coin flip. But the ball just didn't land. They had a little bit of bad luck. You create your own variance on defense. Pete had the bad play in center field. I know Run didn't end up scoring from that, but you like create bad errors. You create negative variance on those things. Dansby Swanson had the error. They got out of it with the double play, but create negative variance on those things.
Yeah, man, that error too. Michael Bush almost rolled his ankle. He did slightly roll his ankle on the bag, and I was like, please, God, no. Like, no.
Yeah,
no.
they couldn't avoid it. They couldn't have that.
Big disaster.
It would have been terrible.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Would have been terrible. Yeah, they couldn't make anything good happen, and all the times that they hit the ball in play, something bad happened. It's just what it is. It was this is a bummer of a night, man.
Northside Baseball Podcast, Mitch Woodmeyer, Jason Ross, instant reaction. Cubs season comes to an end. Game 5, they lose to the Brewers 3-1. PCA went 0 for 3 tonight. He nearly hit a 2-run homer. I mean, literally sent Jackson Churio to the wall. And then later on, I don't know what a bat it was, but he sent a rocket down the. Was it off Patrick? Rocket.
It was off of Patrick. I said
it
was a good at bat for. It was a good opportunity for PC. I have no idea why Pat Murphy let him face him. He had Koenig warming up in the
Koenig warming up. He
had Koenig warming up, and Patrick throws cutters, fastball, sinkers, all of which are pitches that Pete Crow Armstrong generally hits pretty well. He also has he has bad splits against lefties. I would have never let him hit against there. I have no idea, and it's not even like Koenig was like tired. He wasn't barely used. And he's got great splits against lefties.
He wasn't used in this game at all, which just kind of surprised me. I thought there was a chance they might start him, to be honest. And force Council's hand on, do we still lead off Bush or do we have Turner lead off and do that thing again? I honestly thought there was a chance they'd start Koenig. He didn't
I have no idea why they let PCA face Patrick right there. I thought that was a good spot for PCA, and he smoked the first foul ball right down the line. That was not what I would have done. And I'm not trying to get on Pat Murphy. Clearly won the series. I think it's a good. Murphy. No, I think it's a good reminder that Pat Murphy's probably going to win Manager of the Year this year, right?
As he should.
As he should, but like Manager of the Year let a not good situation happen in a 2-1 game in game 5, right? Like that was bizarre. That was a weird thing. So I know a lot of fans want to get out there and they want to get on Council about starting Boyd in game one, or they want to start like even I'm giving them kind of hell on the Pomeranz thing, but when it comes down to it, it's like Pomeranz pitches have good numbers against Jackson Chourio, so like you can kind of figure it out. Like, okay, maybe Pomeranz steals first inning, in best case plans, he doesn't give up a home run. And you steal the first inning off of Miguel. So you lose Pomeranz, they lose Miguel. You're coming out ahead in that opportunity. The best managers in the world make questionable calls. I would never have let Pete Crow Armstrong face Chad Patrick right there. And Pat Murphy thought it was totally fine. He ended up striking him out. So like, I guess who cares? Nobody's going to talk about that later. But that was kind of a weird situation. The guy's going to probably win Manager of the Year.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a good reminder to all of us that, like, even the best managers make decisions that you go, I don't know about that so much. And I know that there's a lot of Cub fans right now that want to kind of like blame a lot of things on Craig Counsell. I don't think he's the reason that they lost. Craig Counsell didn't score one run tonight. The Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, one decision I like that he made was I texted my buddies before the 8th after the Bryce Turang homer when it was 3-1. I said I will be very surprised if he doesn't pinch hit for Matt Shaw. It was a pretty rough postseason I'll be honest. I mean, I don't really want to sugarcoat some stuff, Jason, and do the coddling. I really thought the 8-9 spot in the lineups just felt like a complete dark hole the entire postseason.
Yeah, they're bad.
Like the Cubs might not, honest to goodness, they might not beat the Padres if not for the defensive efforts of Dansby Swanson. Like he was that good and made that many impact plays defensively in the wild card series, but he was atrocious at the plate. And Matt Shaw had started every postseason game against the Padres. Brewers had 2 hits total, and they both came last game against Milwaukee. Like it was a rough. And I hate saying it because I see the promise with Shaw. I don't think because he had a bad postseason at the dish, it means he's doomed for his career. And Dansby had a very rough postseason at the plate. I was just looking at his numbers. So he finished with 26 at bats. He struck out 15 times.
Yeah,
he had one extra base hit. And but again, I'm not gonna completely pile on and say, oh, Dansby screwed like that. Dansby's. You know what you're getting with Dansby Swanson. And again, if not for his glove against the Padres, you might not win that series. But I will say, and I had this conversation with my buddies on a couple of occasions during this series. I said the 8-9 spots in the lineup right now feel like an auto out. They were bad. I'm shocked if Dansby or Matt Shaw get a hit. It's like I'm expecting them to get out at this point. PCA early in that San Diego series when he was swinging all over the place against Pivetta in Game 1, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not what you want. Like the chasing that he was doing up in the zone, down in the zone. But then, he had that big game against San Diego. He had a big hit against Milwaukee earlier in this series, and it kind of leveled down a little bit. And I thought he had great at bats tonight in 2 of his plate appearances. But the 8-9 spot in the order, both of them out, it felt like an auto out for me. It really did, and it was brutal. It was brutal. You're muted again. You're muted. Like you're on mute. I don't know if I can unmute. You're gonna have to click it. Like your actual thing is muted. Packers Nation says, hats off to the Cubs. The NLCS will be a good one.
Work.
Yeah, you're good. Packers Nation, I will say this.
StreamYard. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I will say this. I am in a spot where even as a Cubs fan, I don't want the Dodgers to win the NLCS. And
I'm going to root for the Dodgers over the Brewers in my head, but I'm not going to watch another baseball game this year. Like I'm done.
I was going to ask you that. That's interesting. I might not watch a single pitch in that series.
No, I probably won't watch another pitch all year. I'm done.
Okay, so I think I'll watch some Seattle-Toronto just because those are 2 fan bases that are starving for a World Series appearance, and I think that'll be a fun series. The Brewers are still your rival, so I can't stomach watching it, and they're playing the Dodgers, who far and away are the team I can't stand the most out of any MLB team for all of it. So I won't be mad if the Brewers eliminate the Dodgers. I doubt I watch a single pitch in that entire series. I don't think I can do it.
I finish. I've played what 20 like something baseball games myself this year. I've watched most of the Cubs games plus a bunch of minor league games. Like we're talking, I probably watched parts of 250 to 300 baseball games this year. I'm kind of done. And that's just me at this point. Once the Cubs are out, yeah,
I think we talked about this on the podcast. The Cubs had a good year and they made the playoffs.
Yeah, they did,
and they went around.
Yeah,
they were not a very fun team to watch in that second half. Like I was
they really weren't
them a lot of the time. I watched, but I was pissed watching them. It wasn't like, hey, we're like rocking and rolling and barreling into the postseason. A lot of those games in the last couple months, I was like, this is painful to watch.
I will say this, and I think this is where I think we have to kind of remember what good baseball is. Even good teams are terrible to watch at times. Craig Goldstein, he's one of the best writers on Baseball Perspective. I love Craig Goldstein. If you don't follow Craig Goldstein on X or on Blue Sky, please do. Fantastic. His name always changes. He always has some sort of Craig name. You can never really technically find him, but he's out there. He's a big Dodgers fan. And man, over the last month, he was the most miserable human being I've seen on social media. And I think I'm not quite certain the Dodgers are going to lose another baseball game the rest of the year. Like they might win 8 in a row and it's just over. I think good baseball begets like hating whatever team you're watching. It like everybody just hates their favorite team in the end of your baseball. That's just what it is.
Let me ask you this. So I'm going to go back to Packers Nation. Hats off the Cubs. The NLCS will be a good one. Again, I will be completely fine if the Brewers eliminate the Dodgers. I personally will be, as a Cubs fan. That's how much I can't stand the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I think this is setting up for the Dodgers to win in like 5.
We
just watched a series where they had Snell, Yamamoto.
Yeah.
I can't remember game 3 off the top of my head, but it was someone good.
Who cares?
And then Glasnow.
Yeah.
And you use Sasaki as a closer.
I think game 3 was Kershaw, who they're not going to use again.
They used him in relief. I'm going to look it up now because there's another starter. Relief. There's a starter I'm missing that they have. That's like, oh yeah, they have him too. My point is, and they just took the Phillies out. Like they've been waiting. They haven't played since Thursday. It's Saturday. Game 1 will be Monday. That rotation's going to be ready to go.
No, and Dodgers. This is the team that everybody thought they were going to be.
The Dodgers didn't beat the Brewers once in the regular season. 2 sweeps by Milwaukee.
That's crazy.
So my point is, the Dodgers will have, like Milwaukee will have their full attention.
Yeah,
like the Dodgers aren't going to be sleepwalking through this. I would
say the same thing about the Cubs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would.
I would say the same thing about the Cubs. I think the Dodgers beat whomever they're playing in 5 games, and that's the Blue Jays. That's the Mariners. That's the Cubs. That's the Brewers. As long as they're healthy right now, I think it was Shohei. Shohei Ohtani was the other.
You realize I just
that's
saw
the guy. It just dawned on me.
I'm like, they had Snell, Yamamoto. I'm missing the one game, but Glasnow, Sasaki closing. Shohei.
Only the best player that has existed since Babe Ruth.
Are they idiots or what? Like, Shohei.
No, they're insane. The Dodgers are insane right now. Nobody's beaten them in 5 games. Like they're gonna beat whoever they play in 5 games. You take a game off them, congratulations right now. That's your World Series team, and we all thought they were the World Series team at the beginning of the year. Their bullpen again in September. I followed Greg Goldstein. God, the second that the Dodgers bullpen came in September, you thought they were going to blow anything. They were horrible. They had the worst bullpen in baseball in September. I mean, terrible. And Tanner Scott's out the NLCS. He's hurt. They can't bring him back. He's on the injured list, and I don't think it matters right now. The Dodgers starting pitching's helping. Their offense is really good. They're super top heavy. And Will Smith is like his wrist is on the mend. Yeah, no, the Dodgers the best team in baseball. We thought they were at the beginning of the year. It's not shocking that they are right now. We sandwiched our season with Cubs Dodgers and they're a damn good baseball team. I would be very surprised if somebody but the Dodgers won the World Series at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, and they have it lined up. They didn't have to play a game.
Oh yeah, they're in a good place.
They've been waiting since Thursday. Like we talked about this I think off the air too a few days ago. If you haven't watched Yamamoto down the stretch in the last couple months, oh my god,
so good.
And you're going from Snell, been there, done that in a postseason mini, to Yamamoto to Shohei. Glasnow is their number 4. Think about that, Jason. Glass
That's
now
nuts.
would be the Cubs #1 with Cade Horton out.
Easy. Yeah,
you know what I
easy.
mean?
He'd be the #1 with Cade Horton in.
And
like,
so,
it didn't matter.
The Brewers have home field. The Brewers have the confidence knowing we can beat this team. We went 6-0 against them this year. I am telling you, it's just lined up for the Dodgers, I think, to win it in 5. And I hate saying that because I am in no way rooting for the Dodgers. Well, I'm not rooting for Milwaukee. I'm just correct. Yeah, I'm not rooting for Milwaukee, but if they win, I think I'll be all right with it just because I cannot stand the Dodgers. But it's lined up for them. It is lined up for them.
Oh, it is. The Dodgers,
even without home field.
Yeah, the Dodgers are going to win the World Series, I think.
Plus, and if Shohei just had a horrific series at the plate against the Phillies. Like, that's not going to that's Shohei
Ohtani.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing is he's Shohei Ohtani. When he's 1 for 9 or 1 for 12 or whatever he went.
I got to look it up.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
It's Shohei Ohtani. Who cares? He will he'll be Shohei Ohtani eventually. And at every at bat, it becomes more likely that he becomes Shohei Ohtani again. I would not want to face the Dodgers right now.
He went 1 for 18 against the Phillies.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guarantee
you, they won it. They won 3-1.
Yeah, I guarantee you, he doesn't go 1 for the Brewers. And that's not against the Brewers. I the Brewers won 97 games. They beat the Cubs. Congratulations! Like, they deserved every little bit. I don't want to take anything away from them on all that. The Dodgers were the best team walking into the season. The Dodgers are, I think, the most talented team walking into whatever series that they played against whatever team. I would say that the Cubs would probably be in a bad spot if the Cubs were in it right now. They're not. Obviously, it's the Brewers. But I think either team is in a bad spot. You'd kind of be silly to bet against the Dodgers in either the NLCS or the World Series at this point. They're the most likely team to win it all.
100% agree. Northside Baseball Podcast. We'll wrap it up here in a couple of minutes. Mitch Whitmire, Jason Ross, Cubs eliminated. They lose 3-1. Kyle, thank you. We appreciate it. Really enjoying these.
Hey, thanks, Kyle.
Bummed to lose this one. Realistically, I think this was close to the best outcome for this year's team. I agree that when they were down 2-0, I said I think they win game 3, lose game 4. Because do you remember what I told you? I said this does not strike me as a roster that's going to roll over. They're not going to get swept. I don't think they're going to go out throwing up a white flag in game 3. So I was encouraged that they got it to a game 5. But yeah, when they were down 2-0, I was like, in the game 1 and game 2, like, Milwaukee dominated. It wasn't like, 1-run losses, close games. It was Milwaukee was like firing on all cylinders. I also thought going into the postseason, I think we did in a podcast episode before that series against the Padres, like a week prior before the bracket was even set. I had said, like, I don't see this team winning the pennant. I didn't, but winning a series was fun. But
yeah, I did say the Padres were the team I wanted. So I will give myself some credit on that.
I said Mets, and they didn't even make it.
God, they didn't make it.
3 weeks out, I was like, I think I want the Mets because they're a mess.
Yeah.
But the Padres got them and they won.
No, right. So. Good call on the Mets. They didn't even make the playoffs. Yeah. I would like the Rockies.
They had that. They had that last spot when we did that breakdown.
Yeah,
and we were talking like Reds, Padres, Mets, Diamondbacks. Like, who would you want? And you were right because they've got the Padres.
Hey, listen,
I was right.
The Mets didn't even make it. You were right too.
So bad. Yeah.
No, looking back, I wanted the Rockies. I should have gone with the Rockies.
Yeah. Let's finish with a couple of things. Obviously, we'll have some podcast episodes. I doubt on a weekly basis until
not on a weekly, but we've got season wrap up to come probably next week. Like we gotta do like MVP, like who we thought was our best player, Cy Young. Like we got to give some awards. So I think next week probably superlatives. And then sparingly probably within the off season, I'm sure we'll have a winner meetings react, which is always a good one, and any emergency pods on any signings I think will happen. So like we're gonna be here without the winner throughout the winter, just probably not on a weekly kind of scheduled basis. It's gonna be a little bit hit and miss. We'll let you guys know when we're coming, but we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I do want your quick Twitch reaction because I think it's fun to do it right after the season ends, just to get that snap decision. And I will let you change it throughout the offseason. You are not stuck to this, Jason. This is just me asking season ends. You know what I'm going to ask, right? Is Kyle Tucker a Cub next year?
No,
I don't think so either. I do not think so. I had a conversation.
No, I don't think he's a Cub.
After the game tonight, I said I don't think he's a Cub next year.
No, I don't think he's a Cub next year. I will preface it with this. If you're worried that it's not going to be Kyle Tucker and then they just won't spend, it's not going to be that either.
Okay.
What I will say is that Tom Ricketts is a very vain human being, and we can see that in, like, he won't show up to Cubs conventions if it's bad. He tries to blame anything that he can on not spending. This is, if you listen to Jed Hoyer and anybody speak, it's always like this gracious talk about like how much money they have. Tom Ricketts is a vain human being, and the Cubs are not going to spend $170 million next year. So if they don't sign Kyle Tucker, they're like at a $175 million payroll. There's 0% chance they're going to have that. If I think they will sign a starting pitcher, whether it's Dylan Cease or Michael King or Ranger Suarez, or if they trade for somebody, I don't know who it is right now. I will say this. I think that the Cubs' salary will be commensurate to what it was this year. And I will say, in terms of like win-loss record next year, it's going to be commensurate to this year. I do not think that it's going to be like a Dodgers world-beating, like unbelievable luxury tax blow through team. I don't think they're not going to spend anything and just like, I don't know, the rookies. Like, it's not going to be that either. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing. And I say that as somebody who's thought from day one they should sign Kyle Tucker. Like, I will tell you right now, they should sign Kyle Tucker.
Yep.
I don't think they will. But I do think that if they don't sign Kyle Tucker, they have to spend money, because there's a 0% chance that Tom Ricketts is going to let it be his fault that the Cubs don't replicate what they did this year. Like, there's a 0% chance that Tom Ricketts is going to be able to be looked at the end of the year and be like, yeah, the reason we didn't go to the playoffs next year is because of Tom. Right. It's going to be because of Jed. It's going to be because of Craig. It's going to be because of somebody else. And the only way that you can get there is by spending $40 million again. So if they don't spend $40 million on Kyle Tucker, they kind of have to spend $25 million on a starting pitcher. So I don't think that it'll be Kyle Tucker. I do think that the Cubs will be just about as good as they were this year on paper. It might be more like run prevention versus run scoring. I'm not going to tell you exactly how they're going to get there, but I do kind of feel that. So I thought that was kind of an important addendum to it. And I don't know how you feel about it as well, but that's kind of where I'm at.
You said it perfectly. I mean, you said it absolutely perfectly as far as exactly how I think about it. You could have even been more harsh with Ricketts perhaps there, but I thought you...
I'll be glad to be harsh on Ricketts. Listen, I have no love for that man.
I thought you worded it well, though.
But I do think he's a very vain human being. I think he cares about how people perceive him in the public.
I mean, he has to know it's not good.
Yeah, no, he knows that it hasn't good. But
do you know one buddy of yours or anyone that, sorry for cutting you off, that's a Cubs fan? No. That's like, man, I like Ricketts. Like, I don't have any, but whenever Ricketts is mentioned amongst my friends, it's always a complaint.
My friends know, but Cubs media, yeah. Like, and not even Cubs media. Like, if you go to Cubs social media, there are plenty of people. I was debating with somebody just the other day on Northside Baseball about it. And you know, they were saying that you know, the Cubs spend a decent amount of money, that Tom Ricketts isn't the issue, that Tom Ricketts was here when they won the World Series. And I'm sorry, but I'm not that guy. Like, if you want me, I'm not going to defend Tom on those aspects. The Chicago Cubs could spend more money than they do. The Cubs could I don't need them to be the Dodgers. I don't think that they can spend like the Dodgers, but I also think that they can spend more than the Giants, and the Cubs act more like the San Francisco Giants of the NL Central than they do like the pseudo Dodgers of the NL Central, which is kind of what they should be. The Cubs should outspend the Central every year by $50 million to $75 million, and they don't. But I also think that, like I said, I think Jed is very vain. I don't think that Jed Hoyer wants to be seen as the reason, right? The Cubs don't make the playoffs a couple years ago. They fired David Ross. The Cubs don't sign anybody in the offseason, and he doesn't show up to Cubs convention. There's
always got to be a boogeyman for him.
Yep.
There has
they
to
don't
always has
they
to be
don't They don't sign Alex Bregman, and what do you hear from Jed Hoyer? Oh, the money was there. We asked Jed. We asked Tom. Tom said the money was there. It's never Tom's fault towards anything in the media, and if it is, he doesn't show up. Right? He pieces out. So I think he's very vain in that aspect. He doesn't want to be the reason that the Cubs aren't good. So I guess if like the positive on that is that I don't think that the Cubs are going to go into next year not bringing anybody in. I do think that there will be an exciting offseason in aspects. I just don't think that the offseason is going to include Kyle Tucker. I think he's probably going to be in Boston or Los Angeles or God knows where, New York. But I don't think it's going to be the Chicago Cubs right now.
And I'll add on to that by saying they will probably add a couple nice pieces, like pieces that help enhance your team. Yeah. I will be shocked, and I don't have a name to throw out there. I just don't. I will be shocked if the Cubs make that move where we look at it and say, oh, that's the aggressive move we've been waiting for. That's the move we've been waiting. Now you can go win a pennant. Now you can go compete for a pennant. I think they'll have a roster next year that we look at it on paper and we're like, hey, they could probably win, 88 to 91 games, potentially win the NL Central, like all that good stuff. But my fear, Jason, is we go into next year, they go back to the playoffs, which, hey, a lot of fan bases would sign up for. Look at like Pirate. Like, I don't forget that part of it. There's a lot of fan bases that would just sign up to go to the playoffs. But my fear is the Cubs roll through next season, roll through the offseason, next season, trade deadline, go back to the playoffs. But I have the same thoughts going into it that I did this year, which is, hey, awesome regular season, glad they made the playoffs. But going into the postseason, I was like, this is not a team that can win the National League. It's just not. Even if they beat the Brewers, it would have been awesome. You would have had that trump card to pull on Brewers fans that you may or may not know, right? Like just Brewer fans on social media, if you go that route. I don't, but I know a lot of people do. There's always a lot of back and forth between the fan bases. But there was no way in hell I was going to be like, you know what? I think the Cubs can now beat the Dodgers in a best of set. There's just no way. And so that is my fear, that next year will be similar all the way to a T, that when we go to the playoffs, and hopefully the Cubs are a playoff team next year, don't know why they wouldn't be, that I will go in thinking, this is fun, this is good. I don't think it's a team that's good enough to win it, though. And that's I think they might be in that same boat. Because I don't think they make the move. Again, I don't know what that is. And I can maybe lay it out as the offseason unfolds, as I get more time to think about it, fresh off an elimination loss. But you mentioned it earlier. They don't ever make that move that gets them a little uncomfortable, that could push them over the top.
No, they don't. And they don't do it at the deadline. They don't do it in the offseason. Every year we are like, oh, this is the time when they make the trade. And I don't know when they do it. At some point, the Cubs are going to have to push some chips in, or they're going to have 4 rookie right fielders. Like that's the problem where they're at right now, is that, like I said, like what's
you are lying either, man. Like, Casey,
what's the plan with Jonathan Long? Like I keep saying that, like, what's the plan? Where's James Triantos play? Where does Moises Ballesteros play? Where does Owen Casey play? You can't have all of them. And at some point you have to trade some of them, but there comes a point when it's like, well, then for who? For what? Like, where is it? Because like I would have said the deadline was the time to do that, but
100%.
But they didn't, and now you're going into the off season, and I don't know if they do that. And if they don't do it in the off season, then when? How many plate appearances does Owen Casey need at AAA? Like he's already got 1,100. How many more plate appearances does Jonathan Long need? He's got 700 at AAA. Does he really need more? We're kind of at a point where he probably doesn't. How about Kevin Alcantara? What's the plan there? Where's he going to play? You can't keep them all. And if you don't keep them all, then you got to trade them. But at some point, like their best moments were at the deadline. How much more value is Owen Casey ever going to have than in July when his strikeout rate was diminished greatly? Well, he had a concussion in the second half of the year, so he didn't play. His value is no higher than it was in July. At best, it might be a little bit lower. Because it's not the deadline, and like there's not like a lot of players maybe available. I don't know, maybe there are some in the offseason. I don't know exactly who's going to be available, but it just kind of comes down to this like consistent problem where like the team has to eventually choose a lane. And it feels like at every moment, Jed Hoyer just can't choose that lane, right? They always want to thread this like magical needle. And at some point you can't thread the magical needle. And I don't know if that's like I know Carter Hawkins is up for the GM position in Washington. I kind of hope he gets it, because I think what Jed needs in the room is, I don't need Jed to be AJ Preller, but I need an AJ Preller in the room, right? I need an AJ Preller in his ear, and I don't really know he's got one right now. And maybe Carter Hawkins is an AJ Preller and he just completely ignores him. I don't know. I'm not in the room, but coming from Cleveland, I don't believe he is. And it just feels like the Cubs are always one player short, and it feels like we'll probably come into the next offseason. Like they're going to have to make some moves somewhere. There's going to have to be some trades out. There's going to have to be some signings in. There's going to have to be some money in. But at some point, the Cubs, I feel like we're going to come into next offseason and we're going to be the exact same place as you said, right? We're going to be one player short.
That's my fear.
That's my fear.
And I don't want to take for granted getting to the postseason, winning a series.
It's great.
But my fear is exactly what I just said to you before, that we are in the same spot next year mentally.
Yes.
Where we're thinking, hey, awesome that they got to the playoffs. This is not a team that can win the National League. You know what's a perfect example that'll tie both of us together? Like it's we both are aware of it. The guy, the Packers Nation guy before. So you think about the Packers. Your Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, Jason. And they beat the Packers in the wild card round in a game that it was a 2-possession game, but you never felt like Green Bay was in it. Like Green Bay never really struck fear into the Eagles in that game.
No, it's never worried about it.
And
never worried. One time.
And I know going into the offseason, Packers fans thought, man, we're good enough to get to the playoffs, but how can we get over that hump? We need that one move, that one superstar. Like they went out and traded for Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
It is now. And guess what? If the Packers don't get to a Super Bowl in, let's say, the next 3-4 years when they have Parsons in his prime, it will be disappointing for them. But I can also promise you this, Jason, nobody will ever look back at that front office and say, remember when they traded for Parsons? Why'd they do that? No. The fans will look back at it and be like, hey, you remember when the Packers felt like they were close? They had just made the playoffs. They lost to the eventual Super Bowl champ, and they said, let's try to make that big move. Let's try to push some chips in the middle of the table. That is what I want the Cubs to do, and that is what I don't think they will do.
No, and the difference between the Packers and the Cubs are this. Like, and listen, I know they're different sports, so I'm not gonna one-on-one this, because in Major League Baseball we don't see the same thing happen in the NFL. But the Packers traded for Micah Parsons, then they signed him. And the Cubs traded for Kyle Tucker, and they're and they would rather have the second round pick, because that's what it's going to happen. They're going to offer him the qualifying offer, and then they're going to say, well, we couldn't offer him, but we got the QO, we got a second round pick. And I know that there are a contingency of Cubs fans who say, well, you should have traded him with an extension in place. That doesn't exist in Major League Baseball. Like, the sign and trade isn't a thing. If you look at Francisco Lindor, if you look at Matt Olson, like, those are like, Matt Olson's a weird situation where he was from Atlanta. Like, he knew he wanted to sign with the Braves. But when the Mets traded for Lindor, they didn't sign him until much later. So like, the trade and extension at the same time just doesn't really exist. What does exist, though, is the Cubs like engaging Kyle Tucker throughout the year. We didn't get any rumors that the Cubs had sat down with Kyle Tucker and was like, hey, let's talk long term. We've got Jesse Rogers, and you can say how you feel about Jesse Rogers all you want, but Jesse Rogers is tweeting that the Cubs had no intentions to ever re-sign him. David Kaplan says opposite. He says that the Cubs are very interested in re-signing him and they've wanted to. We'll see what ends up happening, but it very much feels like it would kind of be like if the Packers traded 3 first-round picks and then said, we'll let Micah Parsons walk at the end of the year. Yeah. There's compensation in the NFL too. We'll take the 4th-round draft pick once he signs with, God forbid, who knows who he signs with. But it like, that's the difference. It just seems like the Cubs made the move and then kind of look at it at the end of the season and go, well, I guess we tried. The Cubs like to play the "we tried" game too often, and And I think that's the big difference, is that I think if the Cubs signed Kyle Tucker for 10 years, I don't think anybody here would be necessarily against their attempt or what they're doing, whether or not the contract works out or not. I think we could all at least say at the time being that like the Cubs are like doing what they needed to do to be good. But I don't really trust that they're going to do that.
100%. Anything else you want to finish up on? We've been on here for over an hour now. I think it's been good.
Man. I like
a little grieving session.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a grieving session. I'm glad everybody joined us, who joined us, and everybody who's listening to us afterwards. It was a fun year. That's what I'm going to say. It was a year that we started off in Tokyo, and you and me, we've been doing this all year. We've done like 40 or so episodes of this. It really has been a fun year. I know I'm grieving right now, but like when you really look at it, Cubs had Cade Horton, who showed up. They've got a good pitcher. Matt Shaw looks like he's going to be a good third baseman. Pete Cronin Armstrong looks like he's going to be a good center fielder. Michael Busch turned into a great first baseman. I think a lot of really good things happened this year. So, like, I would much rather the Cubs lose in the playoffs than them not make the playoffs like they had the last couple of years. I know there's going to be some trepidation about Jed Hoyer. I still have some trepidation myself. I do think that they'll probably enter next year one player short. Seems like a Jed Hoyer hallmark. That said, Hoyer has won 83 games, and 92 games. Like, if the bad years of Jed Hoyer are 83 wins and the good years are 92, like we're doing okay. We're doing okay. There's a lot of bad things that could happen in the world of baseball. And if the Cubs lose in the NLDS in Game 5 by 2 runs, when their best, arguably the best starting pitcher,
opener.
Yeah, the Pomeranz is our opener. Their best starting pitcher didn't pitch because he cracked a rib like a week before the season ended. Like, there are worse things that could happen. So, as kind of down as I am right now, I'm going to try to be optimistic. I do think that we have a fun offseason coming. I do think that they're going to sign a couple players. I do think that the team is going to be just as good, if not a little bit better than next year. And this was a 92. Yeah, but I do think that
probably not good enough to.
Yeah. Probably not. No, I do think that they're probably going to enter the season one player short. And I will say that I do think that Jed has the ability to, much like this year where they entered one player short, he will have the opportunity in July to fix that. And I thought the Cubs had the opportunity in July to fix the one player short thing, and they didn't. They came up one player short from probably going to the NLCS last year. They were one player short from going to the playoffs. I'm very much hoping that if they enter next year one player short, that in July Jed Hoyer makes it not one player short. So we'll see.
Slugging away down in AAA next July.
Yeah, or not. So we'll see. But yeah, I guess for all of my disappointment, for all of my bummerness, for all of my like depressing nature, like right now, because I really am. Like I seem optimistic, but like internally I'm pretty bummed. I do think that it'll probably be a pretty good offseason for the Cubs, and I do think that we'll talk about them next year as being a division contender. And I guess if they're doing that, there could be worse options.
100%. Well said. Appreciate everyone that tuned in throughout the year. This has been a fun little adventure as we build up the podcast and try to build up the YouTube channel kind of in accordance with it. I will say this is, someone who was in sports talk radio for quite a few years, both as a solo host and working with a co-host. It's not easy to always work out a rapport with a co-host from the get-go, but I thought you and I kind of from the jump, it worked.
No, so, we get along well, man. This is good. This is good. If you've been joining with us, this has been like so easy on my end. I just show up and I talk baseball. And I could do that all day, and it's very easy with you. So this was a really good first year. I'm excited to see where we go from this. We'll be here all off season. So if you've joined us since day one, if you joined us since today, thank you. I'm always humbled that anybody spends 30 or 40 minutes listening to us talk baseball. So thank you for all you guys. This was a really good year.
Yep. And this is not goodbye until next
it's
March
not.
or April. We'll be bopping on here and there throughout the offseason for sure.
Bunch of times.
Yep. So Cubs fall 3-1 Game 5 NLDS to the Milwaukee Brewers. Season is over. Jason and I both in agreement. Neither of us probably going to watch a single pitch of Dodgers. Brewers.
Not a single pitch.
But the Cubs season comes to an end. We'll be joining you back shortly. Again, if you're new to the YouTube channel, as we try to grow it, build it, help out the algorithm, please subscribe.
Give it a thumbs up.
Yeah,
even just a thumbs up helps.
Subscribe helps us immensely. Cost you absolutely nothing. We appreciate everyone that tuned in all season, during the playoffs, a little bit here and there. We're very grateful for all of it. He is Jason Ross. I am Mitch Woodmeyer. This has been the Northside Baseball Podcast.